So thanks for joining us in the session of Branding 101, the new branding guidelines for CCE. First, before we get started, just your audio is muted. If you've been in a few of these sessions, you understand that already. Please use the chat box if you want to ask a question, if you have a comment, if you're having any issues. We have people here watching the chat as the other ones speak, so please use the chat box. And this session is being recorded, just so you know. All of the sessions during the system conference are being recorded. Feel free to use the chat to ask questions throughout. We will probably stop and answer questions if we don't go over anything clearly enough. So please feel free to use the chat. All right, and this is CCE Branding 101. My name is Heather Russell. I am the IT manager at CCE Administration.
Hi, I'm Katie Belden. I'm a communication specialist.
I'm RJ Anderson. I'm also a communication specialist.
And I'm Jen Heller, and I'm the Assistant Director for Business Operations here in Extension Administration.
Great. So our first question here is, why the change? Why are we changing our branding? And Jen can fill us in on that.
Yes, I can address that. So a couple years ago, we had a leadership change at University Communications, and it seems every time that happens here at Cornell, someone comes in with some different ideas about how Cornell should brand all of their stuff. And one of the things they did this time was they took the academic units, which are kind of administrative in nature, non-academic units, which are kind of administrative natures, and that's Cornell Cooperative Extension, places like Boyce Institute, places like Wild Medical, so kind of things that aren't central here to the university, and kind of put them out on the side and said, we're going to ask you to brand a little bit differently this time around. And so the biggest change for us was the seal and all that. But the reason I kind of wanted to talk about the why is because I've heard a few misnomers coming from the field about the university is trying to, disassociate itself with associations, and that's not at all I think what happened here. That's not the intent, and we can still use the seal. They just don't want it all tied up together with the watermarks. So I'll let you guys talk about the details of that, but I just wanted to kind of give a little history on the change. And so if you have any questions about that, you can chat that in the chat box. Hopefully I explained that well enough.
Okay. As Jen mentioned, the big change is the seal. And the big change is really removing the seal from being locked up with the name with Cornell Cooperative Extension, with your county name, with your program name. So you'll see on the top there was our old, they called this the 3-line lockup. It said Cornell University, Cooperative Extension, and then your county name or your association name. We can no longer have the seal be locked up with that kind of information. So what we ended up doing, and we'll show you guys as we go along in here, is we provided what we called CCE word marks, which is basically Cornell Cooperative Extension with your county or program name, which is separate from the seal. The seal is a different file. It's a different logo file. And we're providing those for all of the associations, for all of the area teams, for programs as they request them. And I'll show you where to get those in a couple minutes. We also have a number of different word mark options, few different colors, few different fonts, sort of more modern font, more traditional font, and some different lengths, kind of Cornell Cooperative Extension sort of next to the county name as opposed to stacked. The reason for all that is, when you're doing different kinds of things, different kinds of flyers, different kinds of merchandise, you might need something that's sort of longer or shorter or different color. So we tried to provide a bunch of different options for you guys. And as far as the seal goes, you can still use it. It's not supposed to be nestled up next to the name. So you can basically, we'll show you a bunch of different examples as we go through the branding site, but basically you need to have some space in between the word mark and the seal. You can position it sort of over on the other side of the page, you can position it at the bottom of the page, you can do a bunch of different things. And there's not sort of one piece of advice that fits to all of the different kinds of things that you guys are creating out there. What might work on a website might not work on a flyer. It might not work on a pen or a sign or a T-shirt. So there are different, we're leaving it as open as we possibly can, just like the university left it as open as they possibly could, so that you could position it where you needed to position it.
There is a question about how much space between the seal.
And that's one of the things, so how much space? I mean, that's definitely a, there isn't like a inches or centimeters, and some of it, if we end up, so what we say is try to position it in a way so it doesn't look like it's the same logo, so it doesn't look like it's together. Of course, that, that could be anything in some of these cases. We take a good, if you guys send us something, we'll take a good look at it and see if we can figure out, if there's if you appear to be following the rules or not. When we have questions, we run them by university communications, and we will do that as well for stuff from you guys. But there really isn't a good, it should be 1 inch. And again, that has to do with, are we talking about a pen or are we talking about a sign? There's a huge difference. It just should not look like it's the same logo. And if you look at the Cornell branding site, they are also very non-specific about this, which makes this a little difficult. We don't mean to be so vague, but it makes it a little difficult for us.
And another question, is it a requirement to use the seal at all?
So it's not a requirement to use the seal. Some people have some associations have chosen to not use the seal on certain things. Although there are a lot of associations that choose to use the seal to continue to show the unity with Cornell, basically. So although we're not saying you need to use the seal, it might be good for you to use it. But that is definitely a decision we're leaving to all the associations and the programs in the area teams. Most I've seen have continued to use it, except when they can't because there are too many, there's not enough room or too many other logos sometimes. It's a problem. You got any questions? Okay. All right. Now I'm going to go out to the branding site, but this is the branding site that is available to all of you guys. It's brand.cce.cornell.edu. And the branding site, let's see, let's get there. This is where we are keeping all of these guidelines up to date. We're keeping all the questions we have from you guys up to date in here. We're keeping whenever we have new examples that people send us or new examples that we come up with, we're keeping all of that in here. So I'm basically going to kind of walk you through this a little bit, and then we'll leave it open to questions as we go along. So and we'll have some time for questions in the end. So one thing I want to mention is always start here. I've mentioned the Cornell Brand Guide. Jen also mentioned it. Cornell does have a bunch of guidelines up, but they actually don't include CCE as an entity in all of their guidelines. We fit into that non-academic area, but they don't actually have any examples for CCE. So what we tried to do is we tried to take what they provided and turn it into like a CCE-ified website for you guys. So we want this to be as useful as possible for you guys, and we will be updating it to be as useful as possible. So as you go along and you're finding stuff that we're sort of missing or you have questions, please let us know because it would be helpful for us. Let's see. Oh, and also the only thing that we actually refer back to Cornell about is the seal. So the seal itself, just the Cornell seal, that's all totally managed by Cornell University. So when you're on the site, whenever we say, hey, go to Cornell to get the seal, we leave it like that because we don't want to have to duplicate what they are doing at all. We, you know, if they make changes, we want it to go directly to them, to changes to the seal. All right. So I'm just going to go down this list here. This is everything that's on the site. We tried to make it as easy as possible, and we tried to model it on the Cornell branding site. So the logo and wordmark is exactly what we just talked about. You can't have the seal nestled up against your wordmark. But we are providing these Cornell wordmarks, cooperative extension wordmarks for all counties and programs. And I'll show you a little bit later on of where those downloads are. But as you can see, you can get there yourself if you're there and you want to explore as I'm talking. But basically, this talks about the whys that Jen just talked about, and it talks about how these things are positioned in the word marks. Okay. The next tab is website branding. We only have a few examples up here, and I believe they're both Think Topography examples. And Think Topography actually has updated their sites to reflect the new branding. So for those of you who are on the Think Topography platform, you should be all set. For those of you who are not on the Think Topography platform, you might have to make some changes if you go in. If you are making updates, you might want to remove the seal from in front of the word mark. And we can help on advising on that if you have any questions about doing that. But there are a few options here. These are not, so I'm going to show you, as we go through this website, I'm going to show you all sorts of examples of things, and these are by no means the only examples of how to do stuff. We try to just like put things up there like, hey, here's a way you could do it. Here's a way that follows the guidelines. But there are always other examples too that, you know, we don't put everything up here. I'm going to just close this dots. Okay. So there's an example with the word mark on the left and the seal on the right. Here's an example with the word mark on the left and the seal on the right, and it's just smaller with this line underneath it. Here's an example with the word mark on the left and the Cornell University, we call that the owl seal. Looks like a little owl in the box. I actually don't like that one as much as I like the other one, but it is something you can do. And there, of course, as I mentioned, there are many other ways to do this. You don't just have to do sort of left and right. You could do top and bottom. You could not include the seal at all. There's all sorts of things that you can do. Okay, the next tab is social media guidelines. So this actually hasn't changed too much. These continue to be the guidelines for social media. We put this on here, though, because we often get questions about social media, and we often find different associations, different programs and things who are doing it just a little bit off, and so we just wanted to make sure the guidelines were up here. If you were about to create a Facebook page or a Twitter handle, we do have some, or Instagram, we have some naming conventions up here, which you don't have to follow, but we prefer you follow just because it's easier for us to find you when we're trying to follow you and things like that. And that is using CCE plus the county name, something like CCE Broom. We also put up here some different, the image sizes for Facebook and Twitter. And I think we pulled these directly from the Facebook and Twitter guidelines, but we put them in one space so that you can find them. And then here's the big one, and we've actually gotten a little bit of a hand slap about this. So the university really, really does not want us, any of us, including departments and things, to use the seal as your avatar in social media. So, and they actually scope around and find when people are doing that. So, and that's because the university wants, for their own site, right, for their own official Facebook and their own official Twitter, to use the seal. So we provided, if you guys want to use it, we provided a CCE It's that CCE in the red box. And there are some instructions of how to customize it, how to add your county name to that. And that's something we can help with too if you guys are running into trouble doing that, if you don't have you know, appropriate staff to be able to manipulate images, we can help a little bit with that. It is a little difficult with some of the county names that are super long, but you know, Washington is one. I mean, there's some that are super long, some that fit really nicely in the box. It's really hard when you're dealing with a square. I mean, that's the problem. But if you have any questions about that, please let us know. The next tab is stationery. So this is a question I got a lot right in the beginning when we made this change, and I think this is because people update their stationery quite often when they make new orders and things of stationery. For one thing we put on here is the EEO statement. Now this hasn't changed at all, but we wanted to put it up there because we got a lot of questions about it. The approved EEO statement to be used on letterhead, flyers, annual reports, the bottom of websites, things like that, is this top one. There's also a one that's shorter for space constraints. That is the second one here. So if you need to add an EEO statement, you can just come to the site and copy it down. Here are some business card examples. They really haven't changed very much. You can use the seal still. You can use your own tagline if you want to use a tagline on it. You can use the new word mark on these. And here are letterhead examples. So these, again, they're not the only way you can do letterhead, but I got a lot of questions about what should I be doing with my letterhead. So what I did was, and you guys probably know this, I put a call out to the system, you know, hey, anyone who's changing their letterhead, please send it to me so I can share it with the group. And you can see actually here all of the different ways that people are interpreting the new guidelines. And they're all fine. They all fit. Some of them don't have the seal. Some of them do have the seal. Some of them have the seal with Cornell University. Some of them have the seal on the bottom. I mean, there's all different things that you can do. And again, you can probably come up with like 100 other ways to do this too. So, but these are just ideas for you as you're changing your letterhead. And also, at the bottom, we have some envelope examples. I got a lot of questions about envelopes. And actually, this was something that I asked the Cornell folks about, the Cornell communication folks about. You know, if we want to put a seal on it, where do we put the seal? There are instructions where you can put it in the lower left-hand corner of the envelope, like this one right here, the Cornell Vegetable Program one. Or you could even put it on the back in the middle, which does cost more, so many people are not doing that. I think a lot of people are going without the seal on the envelope. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, a couple. One that I know you're getting to, but about if signage is grandfathered in or needs to be changed right away. And then the second one is, does it matter which EEO statement we use in email signatures?
I don't think we have guidelines on which one.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, so I think you could use the shorter one if you wanted to in your email signature. As far as grandfathering in, I should just talk about that now since it came up. So for all of these changes that we're discussing, we're not asking you to go out and change everything right now. We're not asking you to go to change all your letterhead, change all your signs, change all your merchandise. That would be ridiculous. So, and we actually haven't done that here. If you actually sort of browse around on our websites, you can see some of them have changed and some of them have not. So, basically our guidelines here are when you are making a change, you know, when you need to order more letterhead or you're creating a new sign for your association or, you know, a new band or whatever it is, at that point, make the change. Does that make sense to everybody?
One more question. Yep. So a lot of our employees and community people don't like the usage of CCE county name as the logo. Do you have another template option? So I think that's in reference to the social media, I believe. Oh,
for the social media logo? Perhaps. We don't have another template, But that is by no means the only way you can do your social media. If you have another way of doing the avatar that's not the seal, go right ahead.
And something appropriate.
Yeah, right, yes. We don't even have to say that. It's going to be appropriate. Yeah, I mean, for a while we had one that was like the New York State map, which was actually kind of nice. If you can get something like that that actually looks like the New York State map when you're done with it, I mean, something like that might be a good thing. We don't have any other ones right now to offer, though. That's what we've got. But if you do come up with something, we'd love to see it and share it with us. We'd love to see what you guys are coming up with, because if we can share it with the group, it just makes the whole organization better, I think. Let's see, going down the tabs. The brand colors, this is directly from the Cornell branding guide. These are the primary colors, and these are the accent colors. But some of them are kind of pretty. So these are for all of you folks who are into color, and you are designing things. And for your vendors, these are the colors that we recommend. Let's see, merchandising. We get a lot of questions about merchandising because it's so varied, right? It can be tiny, it can be huge. Where do I position the seal? Do I need a seal? That kind of thing. A lot of the questions we have about merchandising, we actually bounce off of the university communications if we can't figure it out. But if you're using one of the Cornell, what are they called? Recommended vendors? Preferred vendors, thank you. They know of all of the guidelines from CCE and from Cornell. So if you're using one of the preferred vendors, they should be able to help you with these. And we do recommend that you use the preferred vendors, and that's what Cornell recommends too. AdMinders is one, but there are many, many, many that you can choose from. We point out to the Cornell branding site here and on this site is where they talk about preferred vendors and where they talk about some of the guidelines for the preferred vendors. And we have a couple examples of things here. But again, I know you guys are doing all sorts of kinds of merchandising. This doesn't cover it anywhere near as much as you need. But if you have questions, that's something you can contact us about. We're happy to take a look. Are we on questions? Good. Okay. All right, now we're up to the downloads area. I want to show you guys a little bit of what's up here. I want to show you a demo. First of all, we get a lot of questions about these downloads because not a lot of you have actually Adobe Creative Suite installed on your machines. Know that we have licensing through Cornell for Adobe Creative Suite, so if it's something that you need for your job, you can contact your IT lead to get that on your machine. However, we're also providing word marks that you don't need Adobe Creative Suite for. We're providing them in PNG files, which you can use in Microsoft Word if you're using Publisher, things like that, Outlook. So there's some information about how to download, how to learn about Adobe Creative Suite and how to get it on your machine. But then further down on this page, we have many, many, many downloads for all the different associations and area teams and things like that. So I just wanted to show you what's in one of them. I'm going to click on Cortland County, not to pick on Cortland. Let's see. These are all held in a box folder, so you'll be asked to sign in to get to it, but they are available to all of you guys.
And to sign in, you just use your
Net ID, your regular Net ID credentials. Okay, when you get to this folder, you'll see there are two folders within it, a print folder and a web folder. The only difference is the print folder has EPS files in it, which you need basically Adobe Illustrator to open up. The web folder is the one that has the PNGs and the SVGs in it, and those you can use in Web and Microsoft and also in Adobe. So let me go into one of them. Okay, and you'll see there are a lot of files in here. As I mentioned before, we try to give you a lot of different options as far as as far as what the word mark looks like. You know, whether or not it's all the way horizontal, whether it's stacked, whether it's a modern font or a classic font. We try to give you a whole bunch of different options. So let me click on one of them and show you guys what it looks like. So that's what the modern font for Cortland County looks like. But for any of the counties, for any of the area teams, they look just like this. We do have them in black, we have them in white, we have them in the mixed colors. So that's what these look like. I mean, I'm not going to click through all these. You guys, please feel free to go to your own county and click through and see what you can see. And you can download any of these and use them wherever you want. Oops. Okay. All right, back to the downloads folder. The other thing that's at the top of the downloads folder is we do have some templates as well. We have a PowerPoint template, letterhead, business card, the social media template for that social media avatar that I mentioned on the other page, and a link to the Cornell University Brand Center, which brings you to the seal, where you can download the seal. So we're adding things to this as we come up with them. They are not things that you have to follow, but things that give you a good start if you want to start with using the things that we provide. The examples tab doesn't have a lot on it. It actually has stuff that you've already seen. We'll be building the examples more and more as we get them.
Especially now that we have Kate.
Exactly. We're so happy you're here. The FAQs are, these are questions that we got. We received a lot of questions, especially in the very beginning when we first released the new branding guidelines, and we tried to capture them here, and we still continue to try to capture questions on here. This is a good place to start. If you are looking through the site and there's something you don't understand, you're welcome to contact us, but if you want to take a stab at looking at the questions on here, they do answer a lot of the frequent questions that we get from you guys. And then the only other thing is there's a contact form on here, and we would like for you guys to use this to contact us when you have questions about anything branding. We're happy to take a look at something you're working on. We're happy to answer questions if something doesn't make sense on the site. You know, we're just you know, we want to help you along this road. So please submit questions to us. It's mostly Katie who will be answering them now.
But it goes to a mailbox that, you know, a whole bunch of eyes are on. So in case Katie's out on vacation, or you know, or the question needs to be answered by, you know, somebody more technical, it's a nice place for us to kind of monitor and keep that all together.
Absolutely. And then I think with that, I think my last slide is just, do you have questions right now? What did I miss? What do you guys have questions about right now?
We have one question.
Okay.
Our organization is hoping to be doing more with video production. Do you have any thoughts or tips on branding or video?
RJ?
We are kind of going through the same thought process right now. What I've been doing so far, I've been doing some videos for the area teams, is using those slides that exist in the box folder, you know, are applicable for videos. You can slide those in. Cornell also, if you go to the Cornell branding site, they have what they call a video bug that you can insert at the end of your video to kind of, you know, if you want to tie it into the university that way. The way the university likes to kind of recommend branding regulations or branding guidelines is not to do any kind of upfront branding. They want the bumpers for the branding, you know, towards the back end of the video. So get you good stuff first, and then, you know, include your branding at the end.
So that might be something that as you work on it, we could provide on the branding site, I'm guessing.
Right. I mean, a lot of it's already there. I mean, if you have
The slides are there, the
County
PowerPoint slides
slides,
are there. Yeah, what did you call it, a bug?
Yeah,
Yeah.
a video bug.
Video bug. Is that something I wonder? we
I
should
can
look
share
into?
that. I can
Yeah.
share that. For sure.
Mhm. Yep. What other questions are out there?
See, some people might have asked questions just to the panelists.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I think most people sent them to everyone, but just in case.
Chat. Where's the chat? There it is. Okay. Oh yeah, some that are still only panelists. So let's see. Sorry we missed some of these. Let's see. What was the reasoning as to why it can't be locked anymore? Just wondering because we've had a lot of negative feedback. The lock up to the seal to the word mark.
Yeah, I really think that it's just the new leadership in communications. They just have a different idea of how it should be branded. I don't think there was a specific reason that I know of. It's just that they feel like it needs to be branded as a separate in a separate space. I don't think there is any specific reason, at least that I know of.
And I think the important thing to take away is that they're not just like picking on us.
Right.
It's not just the cooperative extension, many organizations, even ones, I mean, Jen mentioned, all of campus, but actually there are administrative organizations on campus that can't have the seal next to their name anymore, like human resources and things like that. So it applies to a lot of folks. Let's see, here's another one. Certain large-scale things such as building, signage, grandfather. Okay, we got that one already. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Amy, you weren't able to see. I'll be providing the slides afterwards and a link to the branding site. Who can I email our letterhead to see if it's acceptable? So please, you can send to that contact form at the end, or to just what's it called, CCE-communications@cornell.edu, which is on the slide. And Katie will take a look probably. Katrina says we opt to use a topical program area photo as our profile photo on social media. I find the name labeling on the page adequate without needing to repeat a logo as a profile picture. I think that's fine. And actually, I think it's fine. I don't know what you guys think. When you look at the Cornell social media guidelines, they do similar things. They have like a picture of the Cornell bear or a picture of like a person. You can do all sorts of things there. The reason we provided the CCE one was just a lot of people said, "Oh gosh, I can't use the seal. What should I do?" And so we were like, "Okay, well here's a thing," but you don't by any means have to stick to that if you want to do something different. Are we allowed to use the social media avatar and other things? I think the answer is yes. And we do here on campus too. Let's see. All right. So now that we have, I think we went through all of the questions. Is there anything else that has come in?
This new one that came to all of us.
Okay.
The new horizontal logos are great. Aside from the classic and modern text, do you know if there are any plans to create versions that are either all black or all white?
That would be a question for you. I mean, it's something that we can talk about as a group, I think. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think, of course, you can create all black or all white ones, or I can create them for you. I think probably you just want to be careful about the context, making sure that the contrast between the background and the either black or white logo is enough so that it's readable, and that's something that you can send to us. And I think there's also kind of software to help determine if the contrast is enough for accessibility standards.
That's a good point. All right, any other questions out there?
Did you get all of them?
I think we got all of the ones. If I missed anybody, could you please just send your questions and make sure you choose the little drop down to everybody, or I think it might say all panelists and attendees. Can we use the avatar in other places? Yes, definitely. You can use the social media avatar wherever you want to, probably. So the avatar do you want to use the avatar on letterheads? Maybe. I mean, there really are. I'm not sure. I guess my own personal feeling is maybe it won't look as official as the word mark on a letterhead. But if you can get it to look the way your association wants to, I don't see any reason why not. Yeah. Anything else from anybody? I flew through that. Sorry, once you get me talking. Katie, did you want to mention the communicators?
Yeah,
meeting?
So we are restarting the system communicators monthly calls, and the next one is scheduled for the 25th of this month from 2 to 3 p.m. If you're on the communicators listserv, you probably got the announcement about that. If you're not and you would like to be, that email address on your screen right now is the way to contact me and let me know you'd like to be added to that group. And for the first call, we're actually going to be talking about the system conference communication sessions, kind of a debriefing, what worked, what questions remain, that kind of thing.
Great, great. And I think, pretty much, I think those communicators calls are open. I mean, the communicators list is basically open to anybody. We don't have a very, depending where you are in the system, we don't have a very solid communication. We don't always have a communicator, someone with a communications title in every association. So if you are an ED or an admin assistant who does communications as part of your job, you are welcome to be part of that list.
By no means exclusive.
Yes, right, exactly. We want to connect everybody since we don't have a very, it's the most formal way we have of connecting anyone with communications in their title.
And that call will be hosted on Zoom too.
Any other questions? All right, well, I guess if you have any questions after this, please feel free to email cce-communications@cornell.edu. We'll be happy to help you. But otherwise, have a good rest of the system conference. Thanks, everyone.